Evolution. It is something people think they know about. Of course, they might have heard of it, but they might not know in depth what it exactly is. Well, it is a vast theory pulling at every nook and corner of the developing species on planet Earth. Hi, in this video, I am going to take you through the history of evolution, its discovery, and some of its key points. So, without further ado, let us move on. Firstly, what is evolution? It is a change in the heritable trait of biological population over successive generations. It gives rise to diversity at every level of organization. Or, in simple English, the process by which different kinds of living organisms are believed to have developed from earlier forms during the history of the Earth. Charles Darwin. I don't know how many of you have heard of him. Well, he is the man behind evolution. He was an English naturalist and he studied variation in plants and animals during a 5-year voyage around the world. He wrote a book called On the Origin of Species. In that book, he explained his idea on the theory of evolution. It was published in 1859. Darwin's theory of evolution explains how life on Earth has changed over geological time. Scientists believe that this is the reason why all living things on Earth exist today. The theory is supported by the numerous fossils found and by the rapid changes that can be seen to occur in microorganisms such as antibiotic resistance bacteria. So, in other words, the basic idea behind the theory of evolution is that different species have developed from simple life forms over time to time. These simple life forms came into existence more than 3 billion years ago. The Earth is believed to be at least 4.5 billion years old. But his theory caused controversy with religious views that God had made all the animals and plants on Earth, and at that time he did not have enough evidence to convince many scientists. 50 years after his theory was published, people started to discover how inheritance and variation worked. Charles Darwin was famous for his theory of evolution, but he was not the only person to develop such a theory. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. He was a French scientist who developed an alternative theory of evolution. His theory involved two main ideas. One, a characteristic which is used more and more by an organism becomes bigger and stronger, and one that is not used eventually disappears. Two, any feature of an organism that is improved through use is passed to its offspring. However, we know now that in most cases, this type of inheritance cannot happen. His theory cannot account for all the observations made about life on Earth. For instance, his theory implies that all organisms would gradually become complex, and simple organisms would just disappear. The theory of evolution states that evolution happens by natural selection. The key points are individuals in a species show a wide range of variation. This variation is because of the difference in their genes. Individuals with characteristics most suited to the environment are most likely to survive and reproduce. These genes that allow these individuals to be successful are passed on to their offspring. Individuals that are poorly adapted to their environment are less likely to survive and reproduce. This means that their genes are less likely to pass on. They might die out, and given enough time, a species will gradually evolve. But you need to remember that variation can be caused by both genes and the environment. Life on Earth today exists because of the conditions that were present when life was evolving. If in the past the conditions had been different, evolution by natural selection could have produced some very different results. For example, if the Earth had been hotter, colder, bigger, or smaller, our bodies would have changed to suit for those conditions. One such thing that actually happened was the case of the peppered moths. Before the Industrial Revolution in Britain, most moths were of the pale variety, meaning they camouflaged against the pale bark of the birch tree that they rest on. Moths with the mutant black coloring were easily spotted and therefore became prey for various birds. This gave the white variety an advantage, and they were more likely to survive and reproduce. Pollution soon blackened the birch tree with soot. This meant that the mutant black moths were now camouflaged, while the white variety became prey and soon died out. Over time, black peppered moths had become numerous. This is because mutations can cause changes in genes. When new forms of a gene appear because of mutation, a rapid change in species may happen if the environment changes. Such rapid changes support the theory of evolution by natural selection. Now, microorganisms such as bacteria and viruses reproduce very rapidly. They can evolve in a relatively short time. One example is the bacterium E. coli. Its DNA can be changed or damaged when it reproduces. Most of the time, this causes the death of the cell. Sometimes, mutation is beneficial. Bacteria or viruses can develop an antibiotic resistance. These will then survive to breed. This is a problem for bacterial growth. It affects hospitals in mass numbers. As they mutate very fast, it is not possible to get an antibiotic for each one of them. So, evolution, it isn't always good.